Big time boxing returns. Canelo is back, and big crowds have come back in attendance. 73,000 asses packed the seats in Texas tonight. Me and my man, Kevin Perry, are going to unpack this bad boy. Kevin, let's hit it. What a crowd in attendance tonight. First of all, hats off to everyone at the Zone and Eddie Hearn. This is probably the biggest crowd there has been on record since pandemic. 73,000 people in attendance. They loved every second of, even though it was a crappy undercard, but I don't want to poo-poo on anyone because, again, hats off to everyone that showed up on this occasion. And Kev, I got to ask you, did Billy Joe Saunders show up on this occasion?
Yeah, I thought he showed up, and I wouldn't say I was 100% impressed by his performance because his eye looked nasty, and they pulled him out of the fight. I don't know if that was on his own accord or his corner per se, but I thought he put up a pretty spirited effort for the rounds that he lasted in. He won a few rounds. I think we talked about it earlier. You kind of thought that DAZN, the broadcasters were giving Saunders a little bit too much credit. I kind of went the other way. I thought he seemed to be outboxing Canelo, but at the same time, I thought Canelo was just kind of getting into his game plan, fighting his fight. He knew that, Saunders was going to be very tricky, and Saunders was, landing his jabs. He was landing some pretty good counter shots here and there, but Canelo was landing those vicious body shots. And I think he was kind of dialing that stuff in. And I thought the body shots set up that shot that pretty much got Saunders out of there, so he was really just kind of just picking his spots, but he was getting hit. He was kind of getting outboxed, but sometimes when you're a great fighter like Canelo is, you kind of give a little to get a lot. And I kind of thought that's pretty much what happened in the fight. What do you think about my assessment there?
Your assessment, I think that you were at the Triller card and still high from the Snoop Dogg contact high. And I think that people on the Zone commentators were also contact high. Maybe like Snoop's weed is so good from what I hear that it spreads out to the universe. Saunders did great in the fight in terms of like saving face. Listen, man, he took a lot of punishment, a lot of body shots, like you were saying. All kidding aside, I had it 6-2 easily, going into the 9th round. Canelo did something that I found very interesting, especially when a conventional fighter fights a southpaw. Everyone thinks the right hand is the bread and butter. And Canelo's big punch, I mean, he's got a lot of them. He's got a hell of an arsenal. But a lot of people, assume the right hand is going to be the thing he goes to. What does he do? He goes to the body. In the first round, like he just did like a little marination process. Just started just like peppering Saunders' body a little bit. And then you start to see him show uppercuts. And Saunders has a ridiculous way to get out of the way of punches such as Canelo uppercuts. And he has a weird lean to him. I don't know if it's a southpaw stance or he's just like got like really great understanding of like, seeing the future, like Jedi Force reflexes, or if you will. But he got out of big punches, out of the way of big punches.
Yeah, I mean, I thought maybe we kind of saw maybe a little bit of a different fight. I mean, regardless of who you were scoring rounds for, I just thought that some of the rounds, Canelo was missing a lot of shots, and I thought Saunders was executing his game plan in a certain way, but at the same time, I thought Canelo was executing his game plan with trying to land the body shots, and
versatility.
And I think Canelo was not really too worried about trying to win rounds necessarily. He probably felt that as time went by, he was going to break him down. I thought with the body shots, we're setting up a lot of those, like we talked about earlier, that big kind of a hybrid uppercut slash hook that Canelo caught him with that busted his eye up. So
I heard his
yeah.
he broke his orbital bone.
Yeah, and I think part of it is Canelo is, Saunders was 30-0 coming in. Canelo's had almost I believe like 60 plus professional fights. So he has a lot more experience. So if he's losing a couple rounds here and there, he just kind of dialing in. He knows he's got a few more rounds, and I felt certain times that Canelo probably in his mind felt he was having pretty good success with executing what his game plan was. And I think Saunders felt the same way, that he was executing his game plan. I think what happened was, as the fight went on, Canelo he had an idea of like where the fight was going to go. And I think Saunders was maybe a little bit, I wouldn't say overconfident, but it got to a point where Canelo was very comfortable with the way things were going. He seemed a little bit frustrated, but he knew he had about 4 or 5 rounds left to kind of make his mark. And I think that's what he did. He's a great champion. He's been around the game a long time. And I wouldn't say Saunders' stock rose in the fight, but he made a pretty good account of himself. And I'd definitely love to see where Canelo goes from here. They're talking about him fighting Caleb Plant. I'm not too big on that fight, but obviously Canelo wants to unify the 168-pound titles, and Caleb Plant has the IBF title. So that's where Canelo's going to go next. You know me. You know the fight that I want to see, right? What can you
for Canelo?
Yeah, you know the fight that I want to see.
Maybe it's Charlo?
No.
James Toney. Who do you want, Kev?
I want to see him fight David Benavidez. I think that's the only guy that I think can really give Canelo a run for his money as far as 168 pounds. Charlo, obviously, I think can also, but Charlo doesn't fight 168 pounds, so I'll leave him out of the conversation. What was your thoughts on the fight overall? I know we kind of went over that a little bit, but I kind of gave my assessment. Give your assessment a little bit more detail, John.
I love the way that Canelo cut off the ring. I thought he was very good at that. Even though it was a huge ring, the thing was enormous. But he cut the ring off very, very well. I found it interesting that he didn't use a jab, but that's not really conventional technique as a conventional fighter. If you're an orthodox fighter to use against the southpaw, it's usually like right hand leads, but Canelo was doing a lot of different looks. If you noticed it, like it was very subtle, but the body shots were obvious. That wasn't subtle, but then the uppercut started coming in, the hook started coming in, and then he started to show Saunders a different look with bringing in sneaking in the right hands, the straight rights, or like looping him a little bit or showing right hooks. I thought it was a very great performance for Canelo, who struggled with boxers such as Israel Lara, which we unpacked before in the past. Obviously, Floyd Mayweather. You mentioned Caleb Plant. That will be a tough assignment because Caleb's very smooth, slick boxer and orthodox. So we have to see how that look goes. But I think that Canelo
just to cut in there.
You're good, brother.
Plant has the punching power to get Canelo's respect. And I think that was kind of the whole deal with this fight was Billy Joe Saunders. I saw him landing some pretty good jabs. I saw him land a couple really good shots that I think they kind of got Canelo's attention a little bit, but it was more like in the sense where Canelo got hit really clean, and I don't think it really bothered him a whole lot.
No,
but they were very clean shots. Like if you were a judge, you're like, wow, like a couple times I got out of my seat. I was like, whoa, but Canelo didn't. He maybe backed up a little bit. He seemed a little bit frustrated by something.
He had to reset every once in a while.
Yeah, he had a little bit of issues with the movement and stuff, but I think he handled it a lot better than he did years ago when he fought, Floyd Mayweather, and when he fought Israel Lara, where he was a lot more composed. Going through, what was happening to him. So good fight.
Very good fight. I enjoyed the fight. I thought it was very
Is
entertaining.
Is Canelo still? Would you consider him pound for pound the best fighter in boxing, or who?
Definitely a top five. Definitely a top five.
So does that still belong to Terrence Crawford, or you think that's Canelo? Or I mean, Canelo put on a great performance. I ate some crow tonight. I picked Billy Joe Saunders, so you know
I didn't want to break your balls.
Yeah, I'm not somebody who's gonna walk away from my prediction, but you know sometimes you got to.
Hey, I lost last week. I lost last week.
Yeah,
so.
see if you can hit a jackpot. But Billy Joe Saunders' performance, at the very least, he made it an interesting fight. You know, he came to fight. It was very unfortunate that the fight ended that way, but for the most part, I think the fans who were there, they definitely got their money's worth. Everybody seemed very entertained. They're happy that they got to see a live event because people have been sitting in their houses for the last year, not going out, being around people. I saw at the end of the fight, Canelo was walking back to his dressing room and he was kissing people, his family members. And, you know, the thing that I liked about tonight was it felt like things are getting back to normal, whatever that means, whether you think things are going to be the way things used to be. Obviously in life, there's always going to be changes in life, but it was definitely like an experience where I felt that things are kind of getting back to where we can go out and be in public and people are not walking on eggshells, you know, or, you know, if you see somebody you know, out in public without a mask on, you know, you're ridiculing people. I think it was just a nice thing to see that, you know, United States of America, things are kind of on the up and up. Hopefully, you know, things just, you know, get a little bit better. You know, 4th of July is coming up. Happy Mother's Day to
Happy Mother's Day.
Yeah, so
to all the mothers out there, all the women out there, you know, this is your day. All the mothers, you know, congratulations on, you know, the nurturing for your child and doing the things that you do. And it's greatly appreciated. Going back to the crowd thing, that's why I started the show with that. I had such great sensation watching on television a capacity house, and seeing people celebrating, having fun. And even though the undercard wasn't that great, but respect to everyone that shows up. I mean, getting in the ring is not easy, and the billing and the booking, that's another conversation for another day as to why, you know, the undercard wasn't so great. But we're talking positive right now. But it's like, real quick, if you look at the undercard, it's like Eddie Murphy Raw, my favorite stand-up comic of all time, performance, like amazing. When he's talking about, like, if you're starving and someone gives you a cracker and it doesn't matter what it is, you're like, oh my God, what is this, Ritz? What is this? Oh my God, this is a Ritz. That's the best cracker I ever had. Give me more. Like, that's what these fans were like. They were so amped up. And to be able to see a living legend, like, let's face facts, guys, like Canelo, who will be in the Hall of Fame one day. He will be, and he still is a superstar, and he's going to be even a bigger of a superstar because, Kev, I don't know if you caught it, but he spoke English on one of the interviews today.
Yeah.
And that is going to be a big crossover for him, like, because now we could, like, identify with him. We don't have to, like, go through another person. It's not like we're going, you know what I'm saying? Like, now we're getting the person.
It's kind of similar to Manny Pacquiao coming in.
Yes.
And once he started speaking English, you know, you start seeing him on these different television shows, and he definitely built his profile in the United States, and he's become, I mean, he was already a huge superstar in the Asian market, and he kind of brought it to the American market, and, you know, the Asian American market, you know, has embraced him so much. So Canelo is, I wouldn't want to call him an all-time great fighter, but I believe he's only about 30 years old. So, I mean, he's got a long way to go. I mean, and I think he's just trying to make the best fights possible. I think it's actually a good thing for him. He's not with Golden Boy anymore. He's kind of taken an approach as a businessman with his own career. So some of the big fights will be a lot easier for him to make. He's going to have to reach across the street to make that fight with Caleb Plant. And then there's some other like I was saying before, David Benavidez, he's with PBC also. So that's definitely a fight I'd like to see. I don't want to get too ahead of myself here with future opponents.
No, I think you're
But
making
it
a
was,
great point.
yeah, but overall it was a really good night of boxing. I decided not to watch it on the radio tonight. Actually, I got my DAZN card, so and I
Oh,
definitely enjoyed it. I watched it on the patio. I have a video projector, and it was great.
I
It
got
was
to
great
come
to
out for one
watch.
of those, man. Yeah,
We live in Las Vegas. The weather's beautiful outside.
it's
It's probably
gorgeous night tonight. Yep.
75, 80 degrees outside, and you can just hang out and enjoy yourself. So, and Canelo
So
definitely put on a good performance for all of his fans there. I think Billy Joe Saunders probably had about, out of 70,000 people, he's lucky if he had about 1,000 fans in there.
yeah.
How many fans do you think Billy Joe Saunders had in that whole house?
I don't know if the Brits traveled over too much, and I don't want to speak for
I
them,
don't
but
think they could travel over to the United States.
there
right
you
now,
go.
so.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
Some American Brits who already live here that lived in Texas were there or something. But
yeah, you heard the crowd when Canelo came out. I mean, it was like night and day difference. I mean, and that was a great performance too.
Yeah.
They had the mariachi band. Everyone's like performing. It was very like spiritual in a lot of ways and traditional, like in terms of like keeping into tradition. Like it was very customary. It was awesome. Like it's like you feel like, remember Karate Kid Part 2 before they fight? There's all this kind of stuff going on with the dancers and all this. Like it's a big deal. Like they put on a show. It made you feel like you were part of like an experience. And I think that the presentation that the Zone did tonight was probably the best. Real quick on Canelo and his next opponent with the potential of Caleb Plant. I think he does want to unify. So even though there's a network divide with the unification, which I totally agree with, is always a complication. If he really wants to unify, I think they'll figure that out. David Benavidez, Kev, I agree with you, is my favorite opponent for Canelo because I think it's a powerhouse fight. I think both guys, they go to war, they hit hard. As far as going back to production for DAZN, the commentating, first of all, let me say this. Roy Jones was super, super sharp. Like it was like Roy Jones in his prime. I love this commentating. I thought Carl Froch was great. Overall, I thought the commentators were, maybe smoking some of the stuff that you were smoking while you were watching.
I don't know. I mean, I think that was just a matter of like opinion, in the sense of like how you were scoring the rounds. But obviously, when you're watching a fight, you're going to be influenced by the commentators. And I was obviously influenced because I picked Saunders to win, so I was kind of rooting for him a little bit, and he was doing very well. But
yes, he was.
But Canelo is such an intelligent fighter, so his game plan worked for him, and I thought Saunders was also executing his game plan. But overall, great night of boxing. I thought the whole production of the show overall was excellent. I thought the national anthems were great.
They were really. I was going to actually mention that, Kev.
Performances, just the whole overall production of the show was great. As far as the commentating, everybody kind of has their own personal preference. I was actually hoping that Roy Jones Jr. was going to be part of the play-by-play.
That's what I was hoping for too. And I mean, because Roy calls it, man. Yeah,
I was a little bit disappointed by that, but it was great to see him kind of doing the pre-fight and the post-fight commentary. Giving his opinions and stuff. So it's good to see a great legend like Roy Jones there. Any final thoughts, John?
I got some final thoughts. Fight I'm looking forward to: Jose Ramirez versus Josh Taylor coming up. That's a good one to look forward to because everyone's asking me today, like after this one, they're like, okay, this was a great event. It was a lot of fun seeing big time boxing come back. What's the next one? Well, this was on not nearly as big, but obviously there's a couple on the horizon. Teofimo Lopez will be back very soon. And Again, it goes back to the crowd. I think the crowd is the winner of tonight because we haven't seen that in a long time. This is the first time in pandemic we've seen every seat in the house, occupied and people celebrating, having fun. It's almost impossible not to enjoy the event. Like it's almost impossible to not engage in this wonderful thing. Of all sports, excuse me, boxing is one of those sports that is, a very red light district type sport. And it very rarely does the right thing right. Even though I love it, it's my favorite sport of all time. Tonight, boxing got the job done. Boxing was the first one. Now, there's been massive crowds, major crowds in many other sports. But in this case, there was 73,000 people, okay, in attendance. And also all the people that work camera, all the people that work the crew, the commentary, the corners, the fighters. That's a lot. That's a whole lot of traffic, man. And they pulled it off. And credit to boxing because boxing tonight finally got its ass ahead of itself and put their front foot forward.
I think boxing definitely stepped up. I'm going to give a lot of credit to Matchroom.
Eddie Hearn, absolutely. Salute, Eddie.
A pretty good job as far as putting on some pretty good events, with Canelo. And I'm just hoping moving forward that Matchroom can put some more big cards on with the zone. And hopefully we get some, at least in the next couple months, some more big fights. I don't know what's going to be on the horizon. Obviously, we have these Triller cards coming up. They're talking about Triple G and Canelo's would definitely entertain that fight. So that might be something that we could see soon. And I haven't been a big fan of the third fight, but now after seeing how great this event was, I'm actually kind of looking forward to seeing that.
It would be huge.
Yeah.
I was telling my wife, like, imagine if Canelo was fighting a Benavidez or a Charlo, like I'd mentioned before, because I'd like to see that Charlo fight. I want to see, sometimes you have to, like Larry Merchant used to say, you have to dare to be great. And I think that if Charlo gets that opportunity, we might see the best version of a fighter that we don't know that exists yet. But I have belief in him. That's why I brought him up before. Benavidez would also be great. Kev on the calendar. Big fights coming up. May 29th, in Las Vegas on the Zone, we have Devin Haney versus Jorge Linares, 12 rounds. We also have on the 5th of June, Teofimo Lopez fighting George Kambosos. And then we have the big one, guys, on Showtime pay-per-view. Floyd Mayweather, Logan Paul, get your radios ready, everybody. And then on June 26th, we have Vasyl Lomachenko versus Masayoshi Nakatani.
I like that one.
That's a good fight.
Yeah,
that's a good fight. Yeah.
That guy's like the truth machine.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah. Great way to put it.
So is that like and I know there's some other boxing cards that PBC has.
There's other ones. These are the ones that I highlighted as like fights of note. My girl Heather Hardy's going to fight on May 14th. Luis Neri is going to fight on May 15th against Brandon Figueroa. We have other things going on in the world. Let's see if anything gets my interest. I'm pulling things up on the screen, so bear with me. Guillermo Rigondeaux will be back on August 14th on Showtime against John Kishimiro for
that's a pretty good fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, there's some stuff coming up, but overall, I think this was a good start, and I think boxing needs to continue with the momentum. I'm not too excited about most of these fights coming up, but I think just overall sports in general, I think is moving in just the world in general.
Life
is moving in the right direction. So that's definitely something to be happy about. Any parting shots, John?
All I gotta say is, everyone out there, wash your motherfucking hands, stay positive, and Kev, you hit the nail on the head. Life's coming back, sports are coming back, and tonight was a big victory for boxing in a lot of ways, and the sports world and life in general. You could go out there and live your life, people. Just be safe.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this fight is probably trending #1 on Twitter and
Hell yeah.
all the other social media outlets. So yeah, hopefully within see that's ESPN right there. You know,
They're right on cue.
Yeah, right on cue, right? So definitely gotta do another show this week. We're gonna talk about we'll probably do another segment of Kevin Cares and the Sauce in the next few days.
Yes, sir.
And, we'll see you next time. Good seeing you, John. Great fight tonight. And congratulations to Canelo Alvarez.
Congratulations, Canelo.
Unifying the 168-pound titles.